With over 3 decades of experience in education and leadership, Revathi Srinivasan ma'am drives excellence in her schools. As the director of Singhania Group of Schools and the principal of the prestigious Srimati Sulochana Devi Singhania School, Thane, she drives innovations in pedagogy and management. The school has been in the best 5 schools in the country of the decade consistently. A pioneer in curriculum design and assessments, rural education, she is known for her experimentations. Her innovations has been a case study with IIM Ahmedabad. She mentors and guides 5 Singhania schools under different educational boards across the country. She reaches out the less privileged and children with special needs by starting special centers of learning for them. She heads a vocational training center for street boys, providing skills training free of cost. The Therapy Center for Special is a state of art one and is much sought after. Widely recognized across the world for her vision and leadership, she spearheads teacher training programs. She has been felicitated by the Governor of Maharashtra, the Council General of Australia, the Earl of Wessex in recent years. She is also a recipient of NDTV's National Award for, for Inclusive Educational and Teacher Training. She has been an advisor to the state of government for the first BMC ICSE school and the Maharashtra International Education Board and contributes to rural school development. A cultural and sports enthusiast, the, she promotes a holistic culture in all other schools. Once again, thank you so much for your presence, ma'am. And now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And it's indeed my pleasure to talk on a subject that's very close to my heart, and that's education. I think I didn't do anything beyond education. So perhaps that's the best field that I'm in, and it's been the closest. I've lived it all through my life, because from the point of learning as a student, I moved to learning as, as a teacher and learning as a management person. So I think every day I've been learning, and therefore I've always been in the field of education. Today, I'm not going to do any presentation. And there is a very strong reason behind that. The reason is that I've been talking on a lot of forums on the national education policy. And I do not wish that we have the same kind of presentations all through. Two that I'd like to mention is that today I'm going to be talking only about the very, very practical aspects of NEP. And I'm not going to be really touching on the main salient features, because all of us who are attending this, I'm sure, has really, got to read the document, not just read it, but also study it thoroughly with an eye for detail. So under the circumstances, I felt that it was more important for me to touch on the features while moving on to more practical aspects of learning. So I will give you little anecdotes, little stories in between, so that you can see where one can connect and how can one make the NEP, the education system that we always wanted it to be. So what should schools be like? What should education be like for the generation to come? That is the biggest question. So the National Education Policy of the year 2020, I think, is an inspiring vision, a very practical way of looking at what education should be. There is an urgent need to reimagine education, and I think last year, March 2020, proved that really right. In ordinary settings, We all tried and did something extraordinary. And we created innovative classrooms, be it in Teams, be it in Google Classrooms, or be it on Zoom. We just explored. And what we are expected to create at the end of the day is classrooms that are joyous, that children would love to learn, would love to ask questions, and keep their curiosity satiated. In the process, they gain there is a purpose for which they're doing something, agency for which they do, essential skill sets that they develop, and the real knowledge that they get, even change of mindsets that happen. So education has not been actually bad. Everybody has been lauding the NEP as a wonderful progressive policy. Yes, it is. But do we all tie the entire bundle of practices that we had as old, redundant? And my answer would definitely be a no. The reason being that we would not have had the Abdul Kalams, the Narayan Murtis, the Indra Nuis, or the Sundar Pichais of the day had we just said that whatever we did in the past as an education system was not good. But then what's going wrong? And how do we go about fixing it? So nothing is really wrong. It's just that times have changed. When times change, we have to change with changing times. Our thought processes go through a change. So we want to have an education system that will launch a new curriculum, a curriculum more relevant to modern times, that gives you a sense of accountability without having measures with a command and control model. Okay? No one tells this is what you do, this is what you're going to get. It's not like that. So it's going to be flexible to that extent. It is a model where we teach our children as well as our teachers to not follow anything which is standardized. So there are no standardized materials for teaching. There are no standardized ways to a battery of standardized test. And we don't have to look for managing to scale failure of different kinds, be it at the PISA or any of the achievement tests. So I think what is really important is for us to recharge our way of thinking in this new world that we are, which may have its own kind of distortions. How do we do courses and show that yes, school leaders have paved the way for something better? We all know creativity and drive and being good in spirit is very essential for good education. Like John Davy said, give pupils something to do, they won't do it. And they may not learn something from it. But you give them something, not expecting them to learn something, they will demand of themselves some kind of design thinking, leading to a lot of learning. So if you try and analyze as to why children do not learn, the answer is when people order you to do something, and especially if they don't believe in it, there is no learning that happens. It happens in our homes. You tell a 2-year-old no, he will just do that. If you're taking him down, let him or her, a baby, down to play, and they put mud in their mouth and you say, no, I said no. The more you say, I said no, the more is the mud that enters the mouth. Why so? Because we don't like that command. We just don't want to hear that command. Okay? And it's also so true for learning as well. So when I don't believe in something, I will go through the motions. Okay? But if I take ownership of the output that comes in, then obviously I will be very careful with what I do and I will understand what I do. So change is not possible at all unless we all come together to make that happen. So it's very hard to break traditions. We have lived this education system for what, 70 plus years? Okay. And it's very hard to change this tradition. And despite all the passive, aggressive policies that we had, we still managed some innovations. All of them would have had hiccups, yet we did it. So everything that we do for a change requires a change in the environment that we live in, an environment that will celebrate creativity, welcome innovations, and accepts setbacks, no matter what. And we have to accept setbacks as a matter of progress. And why I'm saying this even at the start of my talk is to tell you that while we are adapting to the policies and to the new education policy, you will come across so many roadblocks. One is from the point of view of teachers. We've been doing this for so many years and we were successful. What's the need for us to break all rules? It'll be from parents saying that, oh, we were so comfortable with the old system. Now, what are we doing about gardening and all that tailoring and stitching? I don't think I want to make my child a tailor. So why do I need all of this? So it's going to raise an eyebrow or two. But if you come back as schools together, as a community, you will raise an eyebrow, and that eyebrow will raise our standards and raise the benchmark. So I think there is a very well known saying that says it takes a village to raise a child. Truly so. It's not just school teachers, it's not school principals, it's not only about students, but parents and all stakeholders of the society who have to come together to understand the new education policy so that we can transform schools to a new age learning. And a situation where we are able to accept many of the policies or progressive at views that the new education policy. It requires a lot of effort from our side, but each one of us have to work very hard because the government aims that by 2030, our GER is almost 100% in school. That means enrollment ratio is 100%. We do hope that children will take pride in what is Indian. We do hope that they set a benchmark which is absolutely in tune with the world standards of education. That's what we want. That's what we hope, that the reforms in school curricula, the reforms in pedagogy, the equity component, the inclusive education component, all of that will lead to better accreditation of schools. So that's what would I say about an introduction to what my topic is. But today, when I think in terms of the talk that I'm going to be giving, it's about giving an introduction, which I did, talk to you about the stages of education and the pedagogical structure, the pedagogy and the curriculum, the changes that can happen in that, the kind of training that we have to give our teachers, the kind of social and emotional component that we and learning that we have to provide to all our stakeholders and to our children and teachers, to technology that we need to keep abreast with, multilingualism that we have to promote. All of these is going to impact our way of thinking. So what do you think should be the school objective? So today, I think the school objective of any school should be to build a new culture in the wake of newer mindsets and newer standards. And what kind of a new culture that we can talk about? We have been living in a very linear age. Why? Again, that was a necessity of the times then. When we were in the Gurukul system, the children learned what the Guru taught and also did a lot of chores, which were above and not really confined to technical learning or academic learning. Today, we've come to a point where we start thinking, and then of course we came to an industrial age where you needed very logical, very linear kind of capabilities. That was what was required then. And then we needed something very different. Today, when we are living in a conceptual understanding stage and age of life, it's very important for children to be able to analyze and link their learning to real life. In other words, I think today education is about common sense. And if that is missing, I'm afraid a lot is missing in our teaching learning process. Because we see that everywhere. I was watching some camp that was on in a club, and uh, and this is what made me think. The very prestigious club in Mumbai, and there's some sports camp that was on. And as the coach called out one by one, he said, "As I call you all out, as one finishes, the next goes to bat, and the next goes to bat." Okay, with a bowling machine. And now one child goes, bats. He knows that fellow, that little child will be batting 6 times, and after that it's his turn. But the next person is still seated until the coach says, calls out the name and says, "Get up. Now it's time for you to do." I don't think we ever had to tell our children that before. It could be the 18 months of lag. It could be just complacency that set in, but all the same, it is worrisome if we have to tell our children what to do next in something that they are very involved in something that they would love to do. So I think with this comes the whole understanding of how they are looking at the curricular and pedagogical change. We are coming to a complete structural change, which I think is ideal because it comes as per the competencies levels that we have to achieve. And it is also dependent on the kind of stages of development that one can associate with. For example, it is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So what is it? 5 years of the foundational stage, and the foundational stage is from 3 years to 8 years. And then you have the second stage, which is from 8 to 11 years. That's the preparatory stage. And then you have the middle school, which is 6 to 8. Sorry. And then we have the higher secondary. Now, what is it that we want from our preparatory stage? And or from our foundational stage? All that we want is a basic understanding of joy in learning. Can our children come to school very, very happy and feel the happiness of coming to school? When we are moving from a logical, linear capabilities, when we move from there to something which is more inventive, which is more empathetic, and which has a bigger vision, okay, it requires a different set of capabilities. And if we are moving, as I mentioned, to a common sense understanding, it requires some amount of fun, experimentation, thinking, and questioning. So all these will lead to certain outcomes. That outcomes is a reflection on the behavior pattern of the child. That's called competencies. So no longer are we as teachers going to first write our lesson plan, learning objectives, aids, and this is the learning outcomes. Not at all. We're going to start in the reverse order. Think about what are the competencies that you would want to attain at every age level. How do we use the Bloom's taxonomy to be able to bring across that amount of changes into this? So that competencies will roll backwards to get you what will be the objectives of your teaching. And if that is going to be the objectives of your teaching, what are the kind of outdoor activities you're going to plan? So your aids are not going to be a chart anymore, or it's not going to be a PowerPoint presentation. Your PowerPoint, that's the reason why I didn't use a PowerPoint. I wish I have driven home the point. The idea is that if I'm not using this, then what else can I use? Okay, so in this case, because I'm talking to adults, I'm only talking. But if I were to do this as a class for children, I would have had activities that they do. So we need to build a new culture with a very clear statement of what is our purpose, what is the kind of action we are going to take, what is the sense of urgency, where do I put, what is the action point, what is the date that I'm going to put for every action, and what are the essential skill sets that I want to develop in my children, and what are the mindsets that we need to do, and what is real knowledge. And real knowledge is not what they write as answers to questions, but what they are applied to real life. We take our children to the mall, and the simplest, and I think all your life skills are taught there. They go around looking at things and they decide on 10 different things that they want to buy. And you tell them, this is the money that we have. I have 500 that I can give you. And they have to narrow down to what are the things that they would require and what can squeeze into that. So I think that is important, and that is real knowledge according to me. When we are talking in terms of skill sets, everyone will talk to you in terms of 21st century skill sets. And I'm going to break that completely to tell you that skills are something that our children need to make a living and to just live their life. So let's work at that. Let's not think what the UN decides and what the US schools do and what Germany does and what Denmark does. Not at all. What is important is what we want for our children, which is very, very pertaining to what it is. So to me, an NEP is beyond a policy. It is about what we believe we want our children to have so that they raise their bar, they raise their raise the benchmark of their learning. So every stage that I spoke about gives a focus area to learn. For example, the foundation is about giving the element of fun in learning, the basic language skills that need to be developed, the basic numeracy skills that children must have, the fine and the gross motor skills. How many of our children at 3.5 and 4 years cannot hold a pencil? Not because they have a deficiency, because they have never explored. Even before they start holding the pencil and start scribbling, the parent will sit next to them, or they will have even a tuition teacher employed so that they hold the hand. And when they hold the hand to write, obviously it is the adult who is directing it. Have we allowed our children to explore? Have we allowed our children to try and fail so that they are able to do it? That's what our new education policy tells, that allow children the flexibility and the choice of decisions that they can make. Be it to the mall, be it the game that they would like to choose, be it the instrument they want to play, be it what they wish to speak, let them speak. And that's how you're going to train them to be a better person, for which you need some amount of training. That comes from the school, where we think in terms of language skills. Can we allow our children to talk? Can we allow them to think? Can we read a story halfway through and leave it for them to their imagination to conclude what the story would be like? How can we make our environment more conducive? And can we direct the learning? So, and what kind of learning would be there? The learning by doing. Can I employ my hands and my head to do something? Very often when the child starts painting, you ask them to draw something, maybe a 6-year-old to draw something. You say, draw something, whatever you like. There will be mountains that come in brown, the yellow sun that is shining, a hut that has got one window, big window and one door. And there is a palm tree. There are a couple of palm trees. There is a stream that goes by, narrow at the top and coming about. I mean, you can just visualize this green with red flowers all dotted, all of that. And at the more, if there are some more imaginative, they'll draw two people, one with that stick diagram with two sticks of plaques coming out. That's it. That's imagination. Yes. But can we make that thing beyond? That's my point. So National Curriculum Pedagogical Framework for Early Childhood Care and Education talks in terms of building on these fine and motor skills. building on design thinking. So whatever we think that design thinking is all about the big causes that Stanford will offer, no, it is about making a child think. If there are no school buses, how are you going to come to school? Yes, children will say, my papa will drop me, my mama will drop me. But there would be still others who will say, I'll ask my friend, can we cycle together? And there would be a third who will say, I'll gang up five friends and say, instead of cycling or using an auto rickshaw, let us all walk to school. There will still be some like that. And that's what we want to encourage. The 3 to 8 years is the prep stage. That's the most critical period for brain development because that's the time that they can comprehend a lot many things. So the inputs that we give here is very, very essential. Okay, this is the 6 to 8 years. And I mean, 3 to 8 years as the stage where we see a language development happening, cognitive, more so from 6 to 8, I would say. The social emotional development happening. How do we teach our children to be, uh, kind of uh, adjusting with each other, showing empathy? And this social and emotional development will lead to, if we don't take care of all these components now, it will lead to a lifelong deficiency. And that deficiency will lead to deficiency in associated skills. It will lead to a behavioral change. And you will not see the broader understanding of life at all in such children. So the very basics of the concepts are also done here. So if you ask me, can you teach the Archimedes principle to a 4-year-old? My answer is a yes. Take him to a pool of water and put things that can float, put things that don't float. What do you get? The child understands that some things float. How do you teach quantity? How do you teach volume? Put it across. So quantity, volume is something that you can do it with liquids, with water. That's your volume. And what do you do with mass? You have to put something substantial. So that's what I think the basic concepts come in. So they're able to relate to what's happening around. The in the middle school, I really prefer that they do a lot of physical activities, a lot of movement, a lot of fine arts in that, a vocational studies that they can do, digital learning, computational thinking. All of these are becoming a part of it. We can introduce coding, we can introduce AI, we can introduce ML at this point of time. Giving an exposure to children to different careers in life, the kind of entrepreneurship skills that one must require, the kind of enterprise that one must have. What is really lacking in our children today, and I see that a lot more, is enterprise. If they come out with us in a group, they tend to stay with the familiar people and familiar surroundings. You ask them to move out, majority of them will hesitate, will be shy, will hesitate, will be frightened. All of that can happen. And what does that go to show? That they don't want to take the initiative to make a new friend. Okay, where are my old friends? That's why when you change the class of the section, they'll ask for change of the section back to a place where at least one known friend was there. Okay, it's not just for children, it's also for adults. So that's the next change that you can see. So I think it's important for us to teach them how to take initiatives and how not to be bogged down by any failure, because nothing according to me is a failure. Everything is a process of learning, and that's very essential to do. So exposing our kids to these kind of situations. As a child, every Saturday we were in Delhi. I grew up in a complete defense environment. So every Saturday, when my father would drive down to South Block, he would drop us at the museum, the Natural History Museum, which is very famous in Delhi. Every Saturday from morning 8 till 2, we had to be there. The treat that we got at the end of at 2:30 when my father came back to pick us up was a medu vada with a tomato ketchup. Those days, that was a great thing. Okay. Why am I saying that? I don't know whether that was it, but I chose to do an MPhil in history thanks to the interest that got cultivated when I was very, very young. And imagine so many many Saturdays for 10 long years that you go, you really cannot miss out on any activity that has to do with history or historical art, artifact, architecture, anything of that kind. So you start developing a taste to develop an interest in things which are, I would call, aesthetics. Your fine arts is aesthetics, music, dance, all of that is aesthetics. Sculpture, art, visual arts, all of them, again, developing aesthetics, because it is aesthetics that come into for your help when other things give way. When you're under tremendous stress, what really comes to your rescue are these appreciation of little things. If you can stand at the window and gape at the green grass outside, or the trees and the leaves that are moving with the wind, the gentle breeze, and you're able to stand by, you get that little solace and peace for that 2 minutes. So that's what it is. So types of learning that can happen, they can be structured, unstructured, formal, informal, all that learning can happen. There is a lot of flexibility of subjects that are being offered under the NEP, and it reflects upon the kind of choices that we are giving our children. So, as school leaders, we all have to encourage a lot of choices that we make. Follow a very, when you come to a curriculum, follow a very, very interdisciplinary approach. There cannot be any compartmentalizations. I can't go to um, a McDonald's and just ask for and ask that I choose my sauces, I choose my vegetables for my burger. Not at all. You need to know where to go to get your choices. So therefore, our schools should be such places where we give our children so many choices. Okay, no need for everything need not have an examination. And as teachers, we have to emphasize that let us not do everything with an examination, because our children have got used to this. They will ask you, if you do a project which is, say, a rural immersion program where you're taking your children to rural areas to help them understand what the situation is, or give them some education or something like that, what will you hear from them? Ma'am, will we get marks or grades for SUPW based on this? That's the question we ask. Can we just remove all of that? That's very essential. So beyond classrooms, beyond the walls of our school, can we look at what education is? Be it adult education, that is for parents, for teachers, for the society, kind of the software or the hardware training that we can give everybody, the kind of fitness programs that we can provide, the yoga fitness, or calming exercises that we can provide, all technological, and how to use technology and the tools that we can use, so that we have a more holistic view of what education is. Because this has to come to the society at large before it comes down to our children. Because unless we believe in it, we cannot put it down to our children. So a coding program, for example, I think parents and children should learn, okay, because we never know what we can become. And I think a culture of competition has to get replaced by a culture of cooperation. So to me, changing the school culture is the primemost task that we have to undertake. Be it the NEP, as I said, I see NEP as a policy, very progressive policy. All guidelines are given. We have to use all these points as guidelines, but ultimately try and build your school the way you want it to be. What is the kind of culture you want? Culture of learning, culture of self-reflection, so that we don't get self-critical and find faults with ourselves or with others. How do we develop that growth mindset? How do we help others say that, wow, this is a lovely idea, let's try it out. We may fail, but let's still try it out. Can we build a culture of well-being, of care, concern in our schools, where peer tutoring happens, where children learn from each other? Can we give all our children an opportunity where they are, when I said all children, that includes special children as well, giving a feeling of inclusiveness? And can we build on that? Can we help our children explore? Assessments have to change. Assessments is another aspect of our uh, national education policy. What kind of assessments have to happen? Assessments, I would say, can be self-paced. Yes, it's not going to be easy for schools to do it, but that's what we have to do. We have to use year one, year two, and year three for making those little changes. When we are building a house, we don't start planning on the furniture on very first day. We don't start planning the interiors immediately. We start looking at what is the structure that we have to do. That's exactly what we have to do over here. What's the kind of structure? And for these structures to come, right, or to go to the first floor, what are the little steps that I need to take? And the very first step that comes to my mind is the training of teachers. Giving the teachers a platform. And for me, training does not mean a complete control over training, which means that all KG teachers will go for training from this day to this day. All standard 1 to 5 teachers will go for training from this day to this date, this time to this time, and you will write a test at the end of it. Somehow, I am different in my opinion when I say that training has to be self-paced, based on the ability of the teacher to be able to cope, so that it gives the teacher a lot of confidence that yes, I can do it. If there is a teacher who can't make a simple PowerPoint presentation, I want to give her the strength and the skills to say, yes, you can do it. Then I move step by step. When I move step by step, I will understand that this is a process where I'm moving from simple to a little more complex situation. When I do that, I will start exploring and using many other tools of technology and technological operations. When I start doing that, I develop an interest to learn. So from simple to something which is mastery-based instructional model, that's what I would like to go for my teachers, so that while they are following a system, they also follow a system of blendedness where blended learning happens. Some training can be online, which is self-paced. Some training is offline where they come to school to get trained so that they have the first-hand experience. Above all, we have to start thinking. So give teachers opportunities where they can explore their own thought processes and come out with ideas, which is literally leading to design thinking. And why do I say that? Because when you have a problem in your classroom, when you see an elephant in your classroom, it is you who have to remove that elephant out. It is not an external consultant who'll come and tell you, hey, this is your problem and this is your solution. Because I will know as a teacher in my classroom, what can I do to take that problem out of my class? So I think it's so essential to believe in teachers. You, as teachers, if you're listening, please let me tell you, you are edu warriors. You fought your way through the whole of last year. Okay, there's nothing that you cannot accomplish, no matter if you are 25 or you are 55. Okay, age is chronology, it's numbers, it's all in your mind. So you decide, I'm going to learn this and I'm just going to be the best that I can be. And I'm going to give you an example. The very first website of my school, I designed it. And that was almost 16 years back. And I learned it. I learned HTML and DHTML and web designing from a student of mine who was in grade 12. At one point of time, he actually yelled at me and told me, can't you understand? I taught you this yesterday. And then he remembered I was the principal and he said, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So then I said, it's perfectly all right. I can understand you got irritated. Then he told me, and you know, I learned the biggest lesson of my life, that I cannot go to a class unprepared. Even if it's on a one-to-one, and I'm learning it not because he's my student, but because I'm wasting his time also. I start valuing things. Can we teach our children to value others' time, others' money, our own money, and our own values? How do I value it? How do I keep that in esteem? Because today, if I think the bulwark of our education, the very basic foundation for education lies in the fact that we are combining intelligence with values. And unless we have both of them together, we cannot build the very foundation and the very purpose of living. So the core foundation or the core purpose of education today is about giving us life, giving us the ways to live our lives the best so that we find happiness, we find joy, and we have a lot of questions that are answered. So I think giving ourselves this kind of a training, and I would say this training not just for teachers, but also for parents. And do as parents, if you're watching this, I'd like to say, do make it a point to attend as many talks as you can, especially talks that gives you an exposure to what education is going to be like. It's not about stumbling. It's not about where is my child going wrong. It's not about scoring marks that matters. In fact, I would always say this, as an example. And my brother was all India first. And, I was much younger to him. But when I came and joined the same school, the principal asked me, so you are so and so sister, so you will be aiming at all India first. And my father was aghast because that was my first day in the school. And I said, no, sir, I have no such aims. And my father understood I was different. And imagine I'm talking about a long, long time back. And today's children are far more courageous than I was perhaps at that age. So I think for you children, I'd like to say, I'd like to say, you have a platter of opportunities, completely open to you. If you don't make the best use of it yourself, and I'm repeating the word yourself, you are going to underestimate your own capabilities and the competencies that you achieve because you have dared to explore is something, and the kind of satisfaction that you will get, you will not get it no matter how hard you try, being in the best of the universities, because you have a strong feeling that it is your parent who paid for it. So work hard that you get your scholarships, work hard that you are a self-starter. Don't be afraid to start an enterprise of your own. Take on entrepreneurships programs yourself. I have a lot of students of mine in these lockdown days started messaging me that I'm selling, I make my own embroidered masks. So would you be interested in buying? And you won't believe I have hundreds of them. And I'm buying them only because I'm encouraging enterprise. And yesterday I received a mail from a student who is making those chains for the masks. And it goes and she writes to me, you wear saris, so I've got all colors that will suit your needs. Okay, so I ordered a 10 from her, and I know she started to, and she's in grade 8. So how beautiful it is to encourage such simple entrepreneurship skills. There are students who are going across to teach children in the rural areas, even now on a one-to-one basis from school. It gives you a great sense of pride. And when I come to pride, I have this thing to say to all children, to all parents and students. I want children to have pride in everything that they do. They should be very aware of what they have as tradition, because it is important for them to know their tradition, to know what their history is, what's the history of their country. All of that we must know. And why? Because at some point of time, you can talk about it with pride. And perhaps you can sort of better it each time. And about managing yourself. These are two skills that one must learn. It is about bringing in a lot of socio-emotional stability to you. It makes you think beyond classrooms. It makes you develop a kind of aesthetics. And which also will help you with your communication. So that is the reason why you need to have pride, because when you talk about your country, about your traditions, about your customs, about your family, about yourself with pride, no one will be able to express it better than you can. Nobody else can do that. So feel the pride of being an Indian, feel the pride of being what you are and whatever you can. You will have to go through a discovery-based education, a playway learning, experiential component, incidental learning, which means you have to keep your eyes and ears open. It's not just again for students, but also for teachers. It's much beyond formal training. So I think that is very, very essential part of our new education policy. As I see it, with the policy coming place, there's a lot of emphasis on language development, multilingualism. And actually, it helps to know a lot of languages. So take pride in knowing lots of languages because you can always get to know and understand people better. You can also fit into any culture that you would like to. And there are lots of cognitive benefits as well. I would say there are two kinds of benefits. One is the cognitive benefits, and the other is the aesthetic benefits. On one side, it improves your memory, it improves your problem solving skills, it enables you to concentrate better, and you will be able to multitask better. You will be able to appreciate the stories and the culture of different regions within the country as well as outside. Music, art, craft, liberal arts, any of these, visual arts, storytelling, for example, all of these will give you a peep into someone else's culture, someone else's language. And perhaps that's the best way to start learning to appreciate other language rather than say, I'm fine with English. I'm fine. I mean, we speak English at home. There's no harm in speaking any language at home. But do not do it because you don't want to do the other thing. I just want you to say, take pride in speaking your mother tongue the right way as it can be spoken. And it should be spoken not in an anglicized manner, but in the manner the language is spoken. You must know the literature, you must know the poetry, you must know the traditions of your family as well as of your mother tongue. Okay, you must take pride in it. Sometimes we have mixed mother tongues at home. They're spoken different languages because parents belong to different countries. Take pride in both. You have an added advantage of learning two cultures, two languages. Do that. Do that by all means. Songs, for example, are the best way to learn different languages. I remember the song Eklo Cholo Re, which I don't know Bengali, but I remember the song learning it as a third standard child, 8-year-old. I continue to hear these in functions today from the current 8-year-olds as well. So I do understand that this is not about, sorry, this is not about just languages or understanding languages for the sake of betterment, but it is about aesthetics that we need to develop. I place a lot of importance to that. On the whole, the changing pedagogical structure, the changing pedagogy, the curriculum, the purpose of this thing, all of them lead to a complete climate change. It is going to be unique. It is going to be something your own. There will be a lot of open sources from which we can learn. There will be a lot of open communication, but the crux of everything would be value education. Keep your values intact. That will keep you grounded ever, because that's going to help you grow as a big, very large tree and be able to give you a lot of learning in times to come. I just tried to cover everything in the 40 minutes that I've been given. And I do hope I tried to bring about the practical aspects of the new education policy. I didn't want to touch upon it point by point for the simple reason that, narration will help better and would try and connect to what we are doing in our schools. We are all doing some parts of it in isolation. That's the problem. We need to come together to do it as a community. And the whole community has to come together to take it up as a village does, because it is a village that will educate the child. And therefore, the whole entire community of wherever we live must come together to understand the new education policy is not just a policy in paper, or not just a policy that government or any other agency can dictate to us. It is about something that we need to own it up if we want to see our children better off. As I said and mentioned before, all that we had done before was good enough during those times. With changing times, we have to adapt. We have to bring in about the changes. The changes will begin from here, from our mindset. And that's what it has to come. And it has to come with an open mind, as an open parachute ready to take off. And all of us have to believe that together we will make that change. It is not possible for one institution. And here, again, I would emphasize it's not about being who is going to start this change and who is going to be a pioneer in this change. No one can be a pioneer in the change. There can be only one that can be pioneer, and that's school education as a whole. And we have to come as a community together to bring about the change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a wonderful session, and you really highlighted the need for NEP 2020. You rightly said that education is nothing but common sense. Education is practicality. Education is innovation. Education is experiencing things around in your environment. And it is not for grades, it is for learning, for learning. You have also said that the desired change cannot be achieved single handedly, but all the stakeholders and the society at large have to walk hand in hand, and only then is this new policy possible. Thank you, ma'am, once again for such a wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would also like to thank our earlier speaker, Ms. Rachna, for showing us that mathematics is not a phobia. Mathematics is not something to fear about. It is something that we all can enjoy like any other activity. Thank you, Rachna ma'am. She was logged in, but I think she has just logged out. Thank you, Rachna ma'am, for really wonderful session. I now invite Mrs. Yogita Khanna to introduce our next speaker for the day. Over to you, Yogita.
Good evening. Good evening. And thank you so much, Revathi ma'am. It is so delightful to listen from you every time. So you have a ton of knowledge. I don't know how much to grasp. But thank you so much, ma'am. It was really wonderful, very wonderful. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
IDEA is Individual Resource Development International. It is a complete journey offered to the students to be prepared to lead a progressive life. This initiative is an effort by the like-minded professionals who have learned about life by their own experiences and by eventually realizing what seeds could have been sown to do better in life. We at IDEA Studio want to be the torchbearer in assisting the self-development of a child and help young minds see clear and a confident path to tread on. We want children, especially the ones in their teenage, to be well-groomed, independent, and judicious from an early stage in their lives. Yes, the program is primarily for the young, but there's a difference. The difference here is parent or adult participation and collaboration. Adults become the medium here. That is predominantly what our role is, right? To begin with, we make the children go through a series of tests while offering career guidance and counseling to them. These tests will be based on a combination of multiple intelligence theory, aptitude, and personality. These will help us determine not only the aptitude of a child based on his or her personality, but also their primary and secondary intelligences. Therefore, allowing us to give them a very clear and effective counseling as well as guide them to choose the right career paths. However, that is not what we stop at. We shall also be focusing on their grooming and confidence building. There are three programs which we have designed with the assistance of experts from around the world. We call them the Aram, Praram, and Parichay. Aram is for classes 5, 6, and 7. focusing on life skills, mind frame, knowledge quotient, interest, and hobbies. We believe this as the foundation for students to be better prepared as they have almost entered the adolescent phase or are about to. Next is Praram. Aram is the beginning, and Praram is about being focused. This program is for the 8, 9, 10 standard students who have the desire to do something or are dealing with inner conflict which does not allow them to grow mentally, physically, emotionally, and socially. They only follow, which at this stage could seem to be true, but is only temporary and could actually affect the future, which is a very long, responsible, and a challenging phase. Let me help you understand this through numbers. Childhood is 0 to 10 years. Teenage phase is 11 to 19 years. Youth is 20 to 25. Human lifespan in a normal condition is at least 60 years. If we deduct the first 25 years as adults, the child needs to drive the next 35 years. Childhood was love, care, and guidance. Teenage was excess attention, love, peer pressure. Youth was love, expectations, and compulsions. All the three stages reflect concern and cooperation, but adulthood is responsibilities and independence, which many a times brings in fear, which compels us to be less experimental, lack the guts, and we become followers. So Prarabdha provides the foundation to build the potential through individual capacity and emotional stability. Parichaya is the last leg of program, where it is all about focus, setting goals, being enterprising, being human, being realistic, and connected to people, place, and emotions. As mentioned before, these programs are realistic and might not be ideal. Realistic for it caters individuals. Every enrolled student will be cajoled, will be encouraged, and walk through along with the assigned counselors, along with their parents. Every dream is individual, and so is every individual. So, how can we offer a standardized program to one and all? There is no one shoe that fits all. We have to go by the child and their personalities. Standardization could be possible in offering academic information, training into vocational subjects, pursuing hobbies, etc. We will work on the individuality of a child through this program. It's like science is a subject, while scientist is the inventor. It's like dancing is learning steps. The performance is individual expression, the choreography, and the interpretation. In a factory, a product is manufactured but sold through innovative ideas. This interpretation, innovation, and experimenting is what we will help children explore and also learn during their journey with us at IRDI Studio. Thank you. On behalf of all of us at Team IRDI, I thank you all. Do visit us at www.irdistudio.com. We encourage you subscribe to our channel and keep liking the videos and share your comments and thoughts in the comment section. Thank you.